Is Canon going to release the R6 Mark III in Q2? Or will it get delayed until Q3 like the R5 Mark II? And all those specifications going around, how accurate are they? Well, I'll answer these questions in this video. But first, I have a simple and yet humble request. Please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, it helps this channel grow, and it keeps you informed on the latest camera gear, such as the EOS R6 Mark III. Earlier today, Canon Rumors provided us with an update on the timetable for the EOS R6 Mark III. The long-rumored Canon EOS R6 Mark III is scheduled to arrive sometime in Q2 of 2025. Well, it's certainly possible we could see a repeat of 2024 when the Canon EOS R5 was rumored to come out on 3 different dates, first in Q1 and then in Q2 before finally getting a July the 17th date. So, could the Canon EOS R6 Mark III be pushed into Q3? Well, Canon Rumors doesn't think so. We'd be surprised if it was announced in the second half of 2025. The latest leaked specifications of the Canon EOS R6 Mark III, well, they look plausible. They look like something I would forecast if this is what I came up with. But in terms of validation, I don't have a lot of validation. But the sensor, let's talk about the sensor, because a lot of people are very unhappy with Canon's 24 megapixels. I recently did a live stream where I had a professional photographer talk about 24 megapixels. Now, I'm not saying that 24 is the way to go. It really depends on your viewpoint and what you shoot. But the R6 Mark III, well, you shouldn't be surprised that it's going to get a 24 megapixel sensor. It's going to get the exact same sensor found in the Canon EOS R3. And the digic accelerator that debuted in the EOS R5 Mark II and also showed up in the R1 will provide AI-enhanced autofocus and other functions. And the internal image stabilization is probably going to use the same, how should we say, what are the words for the components, same components inside as the R5 Mark II. The latest leaked rumors are indicating that it's going to get 8.5 stops of image stabilization. I would assume that with the lens and body alone, we're probably looking at somewhere between 8 and 9, so that's certainly plausible. The R6 Mark III will also get the same R5 Mark II autofocus system, and with that digic accelerator, it's likely to get some more advanced functions such as the priority action mode, which is used for sports such as volleyball and basketball. In terms of raw shooting, it's going to be capable of shooting 14-bit RAW at 30 frames per second electronic. No mention of mechanical, and 30 frames per second does sound like an awful lot. But then again, some other cameras have some pretty impressive specs, like even looking at the R50, the R10, and the R7, but the buffer fills up pretty quickly. So 30 frames per second does sound great, but how long can you hold it down? Now it is 24 megapixels, so we'll just have to wait and see. It does sound impressive first, but if you scratch below the surface, how long can you hold that shutter button down? And I get it, you shouldn't have to hold it down for more than about 1/4 of a second, 1/3 of a second, because you don't want to just have too many images. But still, there are times where you're going to be pulsating because there's a lot of action going on, you're trying to get the right shot, and you're doing a bit of spraying and praying, and I get it. It's not something you should do all the time, but to have the camera, to have the capability so you can choose what to do when and where, well, that's certainly a pro capability. The R6 Mark III will also get in-camera noise reduction, though I'd recommend leaving this done in post as there's no undo. And the R5 Mark II has this as well, and well, I haven't used it once. I like removing noise is something I like to do in post where I have more control, it's easy to undo, and I'm just not a big fan of doing that sort of stuff in camera. But now let's turn our attention to the video specifications of the R6 Mark III. But with the R6 Mark III getting XF AVC-S and XF HEVC-S, the same cinema labeling as the R5 Mark II, along with some bold specifications, the Nikon Z6 Mark III might be in a run for its money. The R6 Mark III will get 4K up to 120 frames per second. That's both UHD and DCI. In terms of 6K, well, it will do 6K up to 30, actually, is it up to 30 frames per second? Yep, 6K up to 30 frames per second, and 4K up to 60 frames per second, and that's Super 35 Cinema Raw Light encoding. Now, in terms of Oversampled 4K, well, this R6 Mark III will provide oversampled 4K, so it's around 6K oversampled 4K. So all in all, some pretty solid video capabilities. From what we're hearing, this is designed to, at the very least, match the Nikon Z6 Mark III, because the R6 Mark III is in direct competition to the Sony a7 IV and the Nikon Z6 Mark III. While the rumored specifications for the R6 Mark III are definitely in line with what any reasonable person would forecast, there's quite a bit missing. So this section is about me giving you my thoughts on other capabilities we could see in this camera. Obviously, the image processor, it's going to be the Digic X. We've already been told it's going to have the Digic accelerator. And the processor, well, I've already kind of hinted that it's going to be 24 megapixels. I know many of you are unhappy to hear about this, but from everything that I can see, it doesn't make sense at this point that Canon's really going to deviate from that. To get the exact same sensor as the R3, that's 24 megapixels. The R1 got 24 megapixels, and getting 24 megapixels for a lot of people isn't a bad thing. If it's not enough, well, then consider the R5 Mark II, or the Nikon Z8, or even the Nikon Z9. But there is one capability that has made a huge improvement to a lot of sports photographers as well as wildlife photographers, and that's pre-capture. We're going to expect to see pre-capture on the Canon EOS R6 Mark III, and to be able to store all that information, I can't see Canon giving a pass to CF Express Type B, especially when the Nikon Z6 has had it for many revisions. And of course, Sony has the Type A. But don't expect dual CF Express Type B. We didn't even get that in the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. If you want dual CF Express Type B card slots in the Canon ecosystem, well, be prepared to pay around $62.99 for the Canon EOS R1. So what other specifications can we expect to see? Well, in terms of the LCD and the EVF, I think it makes an awful lot of sense to get the exact same, well, EVF and LCD that we see in the Canon EOS R5, whether it be the Mark I or the Mark II. I would say the Mark II makes more sense because it provides economies of scale. So does that mean it's going to get eye-controlled autofocus? Well, if I was Canon, I'd probably just leave that one out for the R6 Mark III. It differentiates the R5, the R3, and the R1, giving it to a more higher-priced camera. And based on the feedback, I don't think a lot of photographers would miss this. It's a bit of a hit and miss. So the same autofocus system as the R5 Mark II, the Digic accelerator, 24 megapixel stacked sensor. It's looking like a pretty solid camera. The video modes look really good. It's really a question of what kind of buffer is it going to get? How well is it going to produce images and video? And in terms of casting, is it going to get a bit of a magenta cast or a green cast? I really see, as we get these Digic accelerator chips in our cameras, more AI capabilities, I would like it to be able to start to go, yeah, you know what? I know what middle gray is, and you know what? Your color is going to be perfect every time. Is that a bit too much to ask for? That's something I would love to see. It just saves time in post, and I think that's a good thing anytime we can improve our workflow. But now let's turn our attention to the price of the Canon EOS R6 Mark III. The Canon EOS R6 Mark II is selling for $21.99, and you'll see for a limited time that there are rebates, bringing that price down to $19.99. And that's a price we've seen the R6 Mark II for many, many months. So if you see the price of the R6 Mark II for more than $19.99, then you want to wait, because that price is definitely going to go down. And once we have the announcement of the R6 Mark III, the price will probably go even lower. But it's not the only surprise that we see in Canon right now. The Canon EOS R5 Mark II, which recently launched on August the 20th for $42.99, can now be had for a price that many of us were expecting it to be announced for, of $39.99. So what is the rumored price for the Canon EOS R6 Mark III? Well, sources are telling us that it's going to be the same price as the R6 Mark II and the R1 when it came out, of $24.99. Why not raise the price a little bit? Well, there's a lot of factors There's a lot of factors to consider here. First of all, the exchange rate between Japan, their yen, and the US dollar. The Japanese yen has continued to lose ground over the US dollar over the past several years, helping to absorb some of that cost increase. And if we look at the price of the Sony a7 IV, it's around $2,500, I think $24.96, although it's currently also on sale. It has a rebate, I believe a mail-in rebate of $200. And the Nikon Z6 Mark III was released for, again, around $2,500. But as I just mentioned, it's on sale about $300 off. So the price point, suggested retail price for the camera is around $2,500. And I think all these sales, these rebates that we're seeing with Nikon and Sony, well, they're meant to take a little bit of thunder away from this much rumored EOS R6 Mark III, which has been rumored to be announced as far as, well, back in Q4 of 2024 and is now, well, moved into Q2 of 2025, and it's currently March. So that means, yeah, it's probably April, May, or June. And I'm looking forward to that announcement. And that's one of the reasons why I have the smart pre-order links here. They're not going to work right now. This is just me getting ready, because as soon as we get more information on the R6 Mark III, I'm going to let you know. There is a chance we could have an announcement as early as April. And one of the reasons why I do have the smart pre-order links here is to help save you time. What they will do is show you every single kit option available from Adorama and B&H. But also, to be quite honest with you, it helps keep the lights on for this channel, really supports this channel, even though I'm having trouble speaking. But for those of you that have used my smart pre-order links in the past, my pre-order links or my affiliate links, it's very much appreciated. I get anywhere from 2 to 5% back. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps keep this channel on the air. So thank you very much. Once we do have an announcement date, I will do a live stream with my expert panel to talk about the latest leaks, pictures, photos, and who the R6 Mark III is meant for. It's looking very interesting. Now, Panasonic just announced and released the S1R Mark II. And for a price of, what was it, around $3,000 something. I can't remember. I think it was $3,600, around that price point. No, around $3,400. And that's in the price point of the R5, the Z8. So I think if you're looking at the Panasonic side of things, you'd probably be looking at the S5 Mark II and 2X. And honestly, when you look at the S5 II and 2X against the Panasonic S1R Mark II, I gotta say, I'm liking the S5 2X better. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon. And don't forget to check out my membership levels. I now have a behind the scenes level where I take you in behind the scenes of some of my videos, where I shoot, and other information about this channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll see you again soon.